We have some new reports about Avengers Doomsday, specifically talking about the opening scene for the movie. And it does involve some of the set leaks that we've been seeing for an X-Men scene that they're currently shooting right now on the Avengers Doomsday set. Now, when it comes to this opening scene in Avengers Doomsday, there are some confusing characters in the midst of what is happening in the beginning in this opening scene. So let's dive into it. These leaks are coming from the Reddit user Pomo Gemma the Dreamer, who also writes for Star Wars News Net, and apparently is the person who originally leaked the details about Spider-Man Brand New Day that they showed at Disney's Blockbuster Consumer Products Convention. When we heard about the sizzle reel that was shown at the convention, they said they showed a sizzle reel that had footage of Avengers Doomsday and Spider-Man Brand New Day, revealing new villains for Spider-Man Brand New Day. This is coming from apparently the same person who leaked that stuff. Now, some of this is really quite interesting, but still, since it's a leak coming from not a well-known individual in the community, take it with a grain of salt, but it sure does sound really cool. So they state that Avengers Doomsday reportedly begins in Wakanda, with Shuri, Namor, and M'Baku all donning new costumes. That's cool. An upgrade is definitely cool, something fresh, something new, but here's where it gets a little interesting and confusing, actually. The report states, the Sentinels that we've seen scattered in front of the X-Mansion from the set leaks are said to be under Dr. Doom's control, and that's what I expected. If you've been catching our breakdowns of the set leaks that we've been getting, we've been talking about those destroyed Sentinel pieces on the set, talking about the reports we've been hearing that the X-Mansion is going to be attacked. The first thing that I thought was Dr. Doom was taking control over the Sentinels and using them to attack the X-Men. It sounds like that might be the case. But the report then says, with the X-Men joined by Deadpool, Gambit, Shang-Chi, and the Invisible Woman forced to fight them. Now, this is incredibly interesting because these characters are all from different universes, which makes us question where exactly is this scene taking place? Is this all taking place in Wakanda? If so, why is the X-Mansion there? Well, I have a theory about how all of this could work and would fall in line with the overall story of Avengers Doomsday and the Multiverse Saga rather well. So we could probably assume that Deadpool and Gambit are in the same universe as the X-Men. We learned in Deadpool and Wolverine that it is the 10,005 universe. So we could also probably assume that this is the same universe that Marvel Studios showed us in the post-credit scene of The Marvels, where we met Binary and Hank McCoy, aka Beast, and he mentioned Professor X. And we know from a post-credit scene that was released by Ryan Reynolds that Gambit, of course, is still alive, and his chair has been revealed for Avengers Doomsday, Channing Tatum, so we know he's coming back. So we could probably assume that he would be with Deadpool, and Deadpool and Gambit are now meeting up with the X-Men. They're all in the same universe. That's pretty easily explained, but how do Shang-Chi and the Invisible Woman get there, and how is Wakanda involved? Now, like I mentioned, these could be two different scenes, but I think they might actually be the same scene, because what do we know is going to start happening in the multiverse? Incursions. Incursions are going to start to happen. The reality between two universes is going to be destroyed, and unfortunately, this typically leads to the destruction of both universes, if not at least one of them. Now, we don't really know how Marvel Studios is going to choose to handle this in the MCU. We saw it a little bit in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but they could always change it. And what I think is happening here is we are actually going through an incursion, and somehow the X-Men universe ends up on our main universe. And where does it end up? Wakanda. That would explain how people from our universe, Shang-Chi and the Invisible Woman, would be involved in this fight, because as far as we're concerned, Shang-Chi and the Invisible Woman, based off the post-credit scene for the Thunderbolts, are in the main 616 universe. But of course, we knew these characters were going to interact eventually, because Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige said that all of these teams, the original X-Men, the Thunderbolts, the new Avengers, and he did say the Wakandans, are all going to fight together. So the fact that they're all together here probably means that an incursion is happening. And it does make sense that the movie would start with this scene because it will establish a lot of things right off the bat. One, it will establish that universes are indeed colliding now, and our universe is in jeopardy. In fact, the whole multiverse is in jeopardy of being destroyed. It also establishes the fact that teams from different universes are going to join together in an overall effort to stop the multiverse from being destroyed and stop Dr. Doom. And that's the third thing it establishes. Dr. Doom as the huge threat of Avengers Doomsday, showing us just how strong he is. They did this with Avengers Infinity War. They showed us just how strong Thanos was. He killed Heimdall, he killed Loki, he 1v1 the Hulk, he beat Thor, and Thor was at his strongest that he's ever been after Thor Ragnarok. So right away, you knew that Thanos was no joke. This was going to be a very hard battle for the Avengers. They need to do the same for Doctor Doom, especially because there's been no build up to him whatsoever. So showing him controlling Sentinels, who most people know are major threats to the X-Men, that would be pretty epic to see. And if he used a combination of the technology that he has and his sorcery, that would really show us just how big of a threat Doom really is. So this all really isn't too far-fetched to think about and could be what Marvel Studios is planning. And according to this report, this is what we're going to see. Now, again, this is seemingly going to shove one universe into the other. And I think a good explanation for how this happens without the universes actually colliding with each other could be given to us and explained by what we heard in the Thunderbolts post-credit scene. They mentioned that there was a space crisis, and although we don't know what that is, we do see the Fantastic Four coming into our universe from another universe. Well, perhaps the space crisis is something very similar to what we saw with the Fantastic Four. Perhaps space, not just actual outer space, but space as in space and time, is becoming warped, or the line between spaces of two different universes or multiple different universes are kind of starting to erode. That's what we saw in the Marvels. We saw Monica Rambeau go through the space of our universe into another. Because again, judging by the Fantastic Four coming from their universe to ours, they show us that that is what is happening. So that might not just be happening with ships, but perhaps actual pieces of other universes are coming through space and ending up on our Earth. So it could be possible that this attack on the X-Mansion happens in their universe, but due to everything that is going on with the multiverse about to collapse, they actually end up in Wakanda. And it would make sense that there would be some of these new heroes in Wakanda, because Wakanda is probably going to be the base of operations. When you think about who the smartest people in the world are, you think about the Wakandans. That's why they went there in Avengers Infinity War in the first place, to try to get the stone out of Vision, and of course, their army. And a multiversal problem, that's pretty complex. And if you have a space crisis and you're starting to see phenomena that you don't understand, it would make sense that the new Avengers team, which will eventually be both the Thunderbolts' new Avengers and Sam Wilson's new Avengers, it would make sense for them to go to Wakanda to seek out Shuri and Wakandan technology. And you can line this up. Clearly the Fantastic Four end up in our universe because we see that happen in the Thunderbolts post-credit scene, and Mr. Fantastic is most likely going to explain, we came here through a multiversal portal. Well, the new Avengers probably aren't going to have a grasp on multiversal travel, but the Wakandans might. Plus, they have advanced technology more than anybody in the world. So it would make sense that these are the order of events that take place. The Fantastic Four end up in our universe. The two new Avengers teams go to check out the ship and make sure it's not a threat. They find out that the Fantastic Four are not a threat, and Reed Richards explains what happened in his universe. Due to this fact that they now have a family and a whole entire ship from a different universe in theirs, and they have a so-called space crisis, they pretty much decide that it's out of their league. Even Bruce Banner might not know much about multiversal travel. He couldn't really even nail time travel in Avengers Endgame. Tony Stark had to come and fix it all. So it would make sense that they would all decide, we gotta take you to Wakanda. They have the tech and they have more knowledge than anybody. So this would basically put all of the teams in one place. All of the teams that Kevin Feige mentioned were going to come together against Doom. The Thunderbolts, the new Avengers, the Fantastic Four, all going to Wakanda to involve the Wakandans, and then the X-Men. And that could pretty much be the opening scene of the movie. All of them going to Wakanda. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, through space, a different universe starts to appear, and then all of a sudden, characters like Shang-Chi and the Invisible Woman are helping the X-Men fight the Sentinels. And Doctor Doom. That's how Doctor Doom could end up in our universe as well. And then, like I said, that establishes Doom as the main villain of this film, which of course he is. So if this report is true and this is how it's going to happen, I think that this makes the most sense. But you can go ahead and let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe so don't miss out on any of the latest Marvel news, rumors, or leaks. You can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.